Hello and welcome back under my bed. It's been a second, it's been a minute since I made one of these, so I figured I'd do it. And in today's episode, oh by the way, let me explain myself real quick. So firstly, I'm playing Counter-Strike while I record this because I just don't give a fuck. So if you hear loud key tappings, I won't be doing any call-outs or anything. If you hear loud key tappings or something along those lines, then you know why. And also, if I get distracted at any point, like right now, and I'm trying desperately to avoid 12 Molotovs being thrown at me at the same time, and someone just went Vens and I'm dead. See, you're going to be hearing that a lot. Maybe not. Maybe you won't be hearing that a lot. But you're going to be thankful that it happened, because when I'm dead, I'm not distracted by other things. So that's the first thing that you have to know, is that I'm playing Counter-Strike at the same time. Now the second thing that you have to know is that I'm heavily inebriated right now. Now you see, this is something that has been puzzling me for a while now, because I've been weighing up in my mind, like, is it appropriate? Is it epic gamer? Is it epic gamer to mention that you're inebriated? You know, because a lot of people will. It's a weird thing to brag about, and I've never quite understood it. People will like brag about how they're like, oh, I smoke a lot, or I drink a lot, that sort of thing. People don't tend to brag about how they, do heroin a lot or something like that, but which is interesting. But people brag about, especially smoking weed. People brag about how much they smoke, which has never made any sense to me, because that just means you're wasting more money because you have a higher tolerance. So well done, congratulations, you've achieved nothing. So I've always questioned in my videos whether or not to mention the state I'm currently in. For example, there's a whole bunch of videos that I made while I was smoking every day, and no one's ever gonna. I won't tell you which videos I made when I was high as fuck, because no one could possibly ever notice, because I'm already weird. I'm already a fucking weirdo. So yeah, I basically act exactly the same. I mean, not in this case, but that's because this is a special occasion where I've consumed more. But I'm not. I mean, I drank a lot of beers. My challenge today was to get as drunk as I could off only beer, and I think I've succeeded in that challenge. Speaking of which, do I have any more? I have a whole bottle. I have a whole extra bottle. Oh hell yeah! Let me open this shit up with my vape. There's one use that vapes have that cigarettes don't have. You can't open a beer bottle with a cigarette. You can open a beer bottle with a vape. If you have mad skills, that is. I have mad skills. But yeah, there's a whole era of videos that I recorded when I was high as fuck, which is, I don't think anyone's noticed ever. I mean, I've talked about drugs multiple times on this channel, so I'm assuming people know that. I'm assuming that people assume that I do more drugs than I actually do, because, to be honest, I don't, I'm just I'm a normal guy, I'm a regular guy. What was it? But there was a point to this. Oh yeah. So getting into the reason. So that's the two things you keep a note. The third thing you should keep a note of is that is my fan, which I'm sure you can hear right now. Very loud in the background. It's ridiculously hot. We're having a heat wave in the EU right now, including England. And before some of you say like heat wave, it's only like 40 degrees. That's just the normal weather where I'm from in Uzbekistan. You're stupid and you're wrong. And let me explain why. Because houses in hot countries are designed to keep the heat out. You look at traditional house designs or modern house designs of places where it's always hot, and you'll find that they are designed to keep as much heat out as possible. They often have big verandas or overhangs on the roof to keep the sunlight out, so to shade the windows somewhat. They often have single glazed windows. We don't have, almost every house here has double glazing, because it's cold most of the year, because it's England. Hold on, I just hit a sick shot and I have to concentrate now, so I did it. I'm so good. That was a sick shot. It wasn't that good. It was a pretty normal shot, if I'm honest. But what was I saying? Yes, the houses here in England are designed to keep heat in the winter. If you think about it, well, actually, you know what? Ignore if you think about it. Ignore that if you think about it. It's just the truth. We have lots of insulation, and we have lots of, we have double glazing. We have, the entire house is built to be hot in the winter time, which means in the summertime it gets very, very warm. And not only because of that, but because in the UK, it's almost no one has air conditioning. It's incredibly rare, because you just don't need it for 90% of the year. Or maybe not 90% of the year, but a large percentage of the year. No one would ever use it. So unless you're already very well off, you probably wouldn't feel the need to get air conditioning, which is just simply the case in most places in the UK. So, with that out of the way, now you know why I have a fan pointer on my face, because it's hot as fuck. Also, the third thing I want to mention is that, the fourth thing, I don't know what number we're on right now. Were we ever doing numbers? My computer is probably getting quite warm because of recording audio at the same time. I should have just recorded this on my phone. No one would have complained, because this is the No Thank You channel after all. It would have been basically completely fine to just record this on my phone. But I guess I'm just too late. Oh no, how the fuck did I miss that shot? Oh no, that was awful. I never feel like it's a good idea to brag about how much weed you smoke or anything. It just makes you look like a loser. So that's why I don't talk about it very often in videos. I'm very self-conscious about that. I don't know why. I don't really need to be. I don't really need to be self-conscious about that sort of thing. But I don't want to turn into Digibro. So the premise of this video really, I'm not sure. I'm gonna tell the story that I was planning to tell, which isn't really a story at all. I'm gonna say what I wanted to say, and if I'm not interested in it, I'll just simply leave the premise open and move on to a different topic. So originally this was gonna be like a highly edited video, similar to World is a Fuck. It might have even been an episode of World is a Fuck. That was the plan for this. It was going to be a highly edited, compact, informational video with some comedy and meme elements to just talk about this topic. That was the original plan, but as you can tell, I gave up on that plan simply because I figured the people that already were going to agree with me, that anyone that could already possibly agree with me already agrees with me. Anyone that doesn't agree with me already is not going to change that. They're already settled in their ways and they're not going to agree with me no matter what. So it occurred to me that there's basically no reason in making this video, or at least making this video fancy, which I clearly ended up not doing. So instead I decided to just say it in a podcast, because only the real ones watch these podcasts. So today's subject is consciousness. And now I'm going to completely discredit everything I just said by saying how I changed my mind about this issue. Whereas I just said that people can't change their mind about this issue. And that is transhumanism. Specifically the idea of uploading your consciousness. This has been a common thread in a lot of my stuff ever since I watched Lane, pretty much, because I misunderstood it or misinterpreted it. The idea that you could upload your consciousness to the wired in this case, and live as a being purely in the internet. I even say this in one of my songs. Actually, I've said it in a couple of songs, but the most obvious one being instrumentality. I understood this basic concept that when you transfer something from one body to another, it doesn't remain the same human, or it doesn't necessarily remain the same human. The only way to obviously I looked into how transhumanism could be possible. The only way to do it, even if problems aside, if you were to transfer someone's consciousness into a computer, could you know, it wouldn't actually be like a cut and paste, it would be like a copy and paste. To quote Joseph Anderson when he's talking about the video game Soma, which I would recommend checking out both the game and the review. Despite having never played the game, the review's good, and I'm sure you would enjoy the game. So if you transfer your mind into a machine, it's more like copy and paste. So the original you still exists. And in that case, can you call the you that's in the machine you anymore? Now, in instrumentality, I address this, I say, my soul lives on inside the machine, don't care that it isn't even me. The idea being that the concept of me is already fragile at best and breaks under observation. Therefore, why bother with caring that some sort of computer is not you in the most literal sense of the word, because in some sense it's always it has to be you. I mean, there is no you. Now, the mistake I'd made in all of these assumptions, which I'd believed for a while, until I really thought about Lane a little more, and I thought about I did some more research. I'd actually learned about human psychology and how the brain works and stuff, because I've been making a lot of assumptions. I was like, yeah, you can totally upload a consciousness to a computer. That's how consciousnesses work, right? They're just software running on hardware, which was a silly assumption to make. And given that I didn't have any information to back it up, I was just like, why wouldn't it be that? But as I learned more about how the brain works and just thought about it more and watched Lane again, and thought about Lane more, and read some actual books, I started to figure out that there's a possibility that the brain is software running on hardware, but I think it's actually most likely not like this. I believe the brain is much more likely to be something that is not as similar to a computer as you may imagine. That is to say, let's say you have a computer, right, and you teach it some new information by uploading it to, you teach it some new information, and that means it's in ROM, okay, whatever ROM is, read-only memory. I don't know why I said it was in ROM. You have it in your memory somewhere. I don't fucking know computer speak. I probably would if I wasn't in this state. But you have some sort of, you give it some new information. Well, simply nothing physical changes about that computer, correct? It's all electrical currents, and since I'd heard that the brain runs on electricity like a computer, I assumed that was how the brain works too. But I should have thought about this for a bit longer, because it's pretty logical once you start to think about it. Of course, the brain can manipulate itself. It can change the way it's physically formed. When it's forming new connections, that isn't to say it's just turning zeros into ones. It's physically growing new connections, and you can enhance this with nerve growth factors. You can enhance this with chemicals or substances that increase your nerve growth, which allows you to make more connections, because it's literally nerves growing. Which, of course, no computer can physically alter itself, and if it could do that, it must be counted as. It would have to be a biocomputer, and secondly, at that point, there would be no argument that was just its own creature, in which case you couldn't upload your consciousness to it due to, you'd have to overwrite whatever was there previously, and if you did somehow upload your consciousness to it, it would already have been its own creature, given that it has the ability to modify itself. Therefore, it wouldn't be fully you. It would be a mashup of the consciousness of yourself and the consciousness of this cybernetic creature. So that's the problem here, is that I assume that it's possible that the brain is software running on hardware, or that the consciousness is software running on the hardware of the brain. Whereas in reality, they're too interconnected to separate. Now we come to now I spend the rest of this podcast explaining little details about why this is the case. So I've already talked about the fact that if you can't get around this by simply, or why, I'm going to talk about why you can't get around this. So I've already established that you can't get around this simply by building a computer that can modify itself mechanically. The next step is to prove that you can't simply model this you can't just create a model brain that can, you can't just simulate this, is what I'm saying. Because if you were to simulate it, well, firstly, you still have the question of cut and paste rather than copy and paste, which is, never goes away as an issue. But more importantly, if you can simulate, the human brain is the most complex thing we know of in the universe, the most complex object we know of in the universe. Therefore, if you can simulate a human brain, which is let's say it's not going to happen soon, if you can simulate a human brain, it stands to reason. See, this is why I knew would happen. I'm way too drunk to talk about this stuff. What was my argument again? Okay, if you can simulate a human brain, all you've done is simulated a human brain. You haven't created artificial consciousness. You've just created a simulation of consciousness. Which, it's arguable that simulation can be, if it's advanced enough, can be indistinguishable from the real thing. And that's a completely fair point. And at some point, I had a counter argument to that. But I don't remember what it was, so for now, this is basically the only option. It's to simulate a brain. Literally simulate every single atom of a brain. Now, this obviously comes with its own problems, that being the simulation of the brain. I think this might have been my argument before, actually. A simulation of a brain, every atom of a brain, would have to be so advanced that the amount of power it would take up would be... I just got a knife kill, I just want to make that clear. The amount of power that would take, like physical energy. The brain is not only super advanced, more advanced than the most advanced supercomputers we have, it also runs on almost no power. So that's kind of one of the things that's most impressive about it. And having a computer powerful enough to simulate that would require so much more power that you couldn't, because if that brain were to then decide to simulate itself, it couldn't. Because, it literally, it's impossible to have enough power to have a fully functioning human brain in simulation. because if that human brain was to decide to simulate itself, it wouldn't be able to, because simulating a human brain would take so much power that already brain simulating computer on the first layer would have to have an infinite amount of power to account for an infinite amount of simulations. There we go. I did it. I was smart. So that's number one. Number two, how do you know that the brain isn't software running on hardware if the hardware was malleable? I don't know. See, this is what I knew would happen. I'm already bored of this subject. You already understand the point. Any argument you can come up with for how consciousness could be uploaded is nonsense, and I can disprove it. I just can't do it right now because I'm drunk as fuck. Okay? You understand, surely. How long have I been recording for? 20 minutes. Okay, that's understandable. So now I'm just gonna fucking chat shit for the rest of this time, because really that's what you come here for. Let me drink some beer. Do I really record these podcasts under my bed? Question mark. Answer, yes. Answer, sometimes. Not today. This is the first episode of Under No Thank You's Bed that hasn't been recorded under my bed. Fun fact. Today, because I'm playing Counter-Strike at the same time, I can't record it under my bed. I wonder why, imagine having 130 people in one place. I can't do that. I can't imagine 130 people having in one place with the specific caveat that they're all listening to me talk about bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. Yet, on the internet, it is completely possible. Why is this fact true? This fact is simply true because the internet is a separate layer of reality. I don't know how many times I have to tell you people this. The internet is a separate layer of reality that doesn't conform to the normal rules that our reality has. And therefore, we shouldn't treat it as such. I don't know how many times A is clear. I don't know how many times I have to mention this in videos before we get through people's heads. The internet is its own layer of reality. There's a reason that each episode of Lane is titled Layer something. You people couldn't possibly understand because you're not as advanced as me. You just don't have the IQ. Your raw IQ numbers just aren't high enough. It's all about the raw numbers here. On this channel, we're all about maths. And yes, it's maths. Math versus maths. Obviously, Americans say math and English say maths, plural. And honestly, both are completely understandable. Right? Mathematics is the full word that everyone agrees on. So, and both math and maths are shortenings of said word, which also makes sense because mathematics is quite a mouthful to say, so it makes complete sense why someone would want to shorten that to make it easy to communicate, because that's what a language is for. A language without communication is just entirely useless. So, the question is, how do you approach this shortening? Do you simply do you simply literally shorten the word, as in math? You literally just cut off the end of the word, math? Or do you treat the new word that you've created as its own word with its own grammar? I.e., well, mathematics is plural, therefore math should be plural, and it becomes maths. Both are completely legitimate approaches to this question. The difference is whether you do the problem in parentheses or not. If you don't do the problem in parentheses, you end up with math, and if you do the problem in parentheses, you end up with maths. And both possibilities are perfectly understandable. And people get way too anxious about the differences between American and English grammar, when the reality is the English grammar is just better. That's not true. The reality is they both evolved for different reasons in separate conditions. Why would you expect them to be the same? I've got this new vape liquid that I just got from the corner shop, and it's called Double Menthol, and it really lives up to its name. I talked about this in a video that hasn't been released yet, but it's a very mentholy. The only thing is, it's not good because it's so mentholy. It's not quite harsh enough on the throat for me. I prefer a real kick to my throat, so I tend to add a little extra nicotine to it, just for that extra kick. But the thing is, when I drink, I always want to have loads of nicotine, so I end up having loads of nicotine when I add this extra nicotine to this flavour, which is still fine because nicotine is unfairly maligned, and it's actually a very great drug. Think about how many great minds in history smoked cigarettes, and there you go. Statistically, it just makes sense that nicotine is nicotine is a stimulant. I guess it literally, in the most literal sense, gets the blood flowing. It increases blood flow to the brain, which I'm not going to say it makes you smarter, but all I'm saying is it increases blood flow to the brain. Make of that what you will. The problem being that cigarettes they cause all sorts of lung cancers and shit, which is, in most people's minds, not ideal. Don't know if you ever watched someone die from lung cancer. Not a particularly pleasant death. Pretty painful. You just slowly, it's not like being suffocated. Being suffocated is already bad enough, but this is being slowly suffocated over the course of multiple years. It's not great, and it's also kind of hard to cure. So then vapes came along, and they were cool, but they were never cool. They were always not cool, and that's such a shame, because vaping had the potential to be cyberpunk as fuck. Never forget that one guy that vapes in Cyberpunk 27. Not Cyberpunk 27. The new Blade Runner 2049. Blade Runner 2049. Is that what it's called? Please say I got that right. I'm gonna assume it's Blade Runner 2049. More like Blade Runner 2049. I got bleed in the club. I got weed in my lungs. It is 2049. I was right. Blade Runner 2049. That's just amazing. I'm just imagining Blade Runner 2049, but Ryan Gosling is replaced by Bladey, and every line is auto-tuned. Oh, that would be incredible. Anyway, vaping could be cyberpunk. Fun fact, there's a lot of hookah bars, shisha bars in London. If you don't know what a hookah/shisha pipe is, I recommend googling it. You've probably seen it before, but I'm sure most people know what it is. I've had genuine shisha and hookah a few times, and I've had vape shisha/hookah. I don't know what the correct terminology is. I think that shisha and hookah are just... I think, if I remember correctly, the hookah is the name of the pipe and the shisha is the name of the tobacco. I may be wrong. I may be completely wrong there. But if you've ever had it before, you know that it's an entirely different experience to smoking, first of all. Secondly, there are these vape because it's obviously a smoking ban. This allows people from smoking in buildings. Shisha bars you think they're fucked because their entire market, their entire business model revolves around smoking in a building while you have some food and drinks. But people have found some cool ways to get around with it. One of the ways they found, a genuine one, was they had the building you'd go in, and it was just a tiny building, and it was down like a low alley. It was really cyberpunk because they had a neon sign. It was completely like there was just one small sign outside that looked kind of dingy. And you'd walk in, you'd open the first door, and there's a corridor with a neon sign at the end that said what the name of the place was. I don't remember what it's called. And you'd go into the second door underneath that sign, and there's a tiny little like reception area. I don't know if it's like a place where you pay basically, and you order your shisha, and then there's no doors or anything, just right there is like a back garden type place, but the back garden type place has heaters and is completely covered with like almost a pergola, but more solid, so rain can't get through, and it's completely warm like indoors because there's no gaps in that the roofing bit. It's just made of thin wood, and there's heaters, so it completely feels like you're indoors basically, except for the fact that the ground is like it's not grass, but the ground is like not like an indoors floor. I don't know how to explain it really, but yeah. And then in that little back patio area, which is most of the building, you can shisha as much as you want. And that's a pretty cool place, except it's kind of expensive. But yeah, so that's one way of getting around it, and the other way of getting around it is having vape shishas. It is what it sounds like. In my opinion, takes away from the overall vibe. Last time I went there to one of these places, the shisha tastes like laundry, a little bit like laundry. Decided probably wasn't for the best, but then they could just have it in a normal building. That place was also overpriced, but it was in a hipster area, so it makes sense that it was overpriced. But the interior was decorated really cool, which I like that. It made me feel cool, being in a place that has a nice interior. You know, I appreciate good interior design out here. So, it's quite possible. I mean, it feels cyberpunk, smoking an electronic cigarette. It's such a shame that they turned out to be super lame. The problem is that they're marketed as the healthier alternative to smoking, and they kind of are. The problem is that it's the people. The whole point of smoking is to passively accelerate your death. It's a sign of nihilism. It's a, you know, no one could possibly exist in today's times that doesn't know that smoking is bad for you and makes you die sooner. However, people do it anyway, and that's the point. The problem with vaping is that it's like smoking. You get all the nicotine advantages that you get from smoking, and it's cheaper. The problem is that it allegedly doesn't kill you. So what we need is a study to come out that shows that we need a conclusive study that shows that it makes you go blind or something. That is the only way that we can reclaim vaping from the normies. Because who vapes? It's people who are too pussy to smoke. Let's be real here. Everyone knows this. Now, the main reason I vape is well, there's two reasons. Firstly, it's cheaper than smoking straights or pre-rolled cigarettes, and it's very convenient. But secondly, I can do it inside without worrying about the smoke, which is a pretty big advantage, because it's always quite annoying the fact that you have to, smoking produces this smelly smoke that doesn't go away, and it doesn't go away quite as easily as vape sounds for the nose. I wonder if I can get a knife kill here. I did get a knife kill. That was cool. You could say I'm pretty cool. One could argue that I'm pretty cool. So yeah, what we need is a study to come out and show how bad vaping is for you. Now, I'm sure somebody would be. If it wasn't for the fact that the big tobacco companies are generally the people that own the vaping companies, I'm sure that some big tobacco company would have paid for it. In fact, I can assure you they have, before they caught on that it was more than just a fad, which it kind of still is just a fad. But you know what? I'm okay with it being just a fad. I mean, I don't think it's just a fad, I just think it's lame. I think that's the main problem, is that it's lame. And the reason it's lame is because it doesn't kill you. So we simply need conclusive evidence that vaping kills you, or for someone to make a more dangerous type of vape. And then it'll be fine. Everyone will be happy. And by everyone, I mean the people who want to die. It'll be great. So in conclusion, vapes dangerous, Ben. I think I generally record for an hour, is that correct? I should have the, I was gonna say, I should have the music from Digi's Decompression Chamber here, which is actually, I don't know why I refer to it as such. Well, I know why I've referred to it as such. It's because I've never seen Berserk, so I don't recognize it as the music from Berserk, I recognize it as the music from Digi's Decompression Chamber, which is in some ways more iconic than Berserk. I just got killed. Hold on, I need to piss. Okay, firstly I would like to point out that this is the harsh noise of podcasts, and secondly I would like to say, so today I listened to all of Digibro's light novel that he wrote in about a day, whatever, blah blah blah. Why did I do this? Well, it randomly showed up in my recommended feed. That's the reason. Now this is interesting because I'm not subscribed to Digibro or any of his channels anymore. So why it showed up in my recommended, who knows? Well, I knows because I used to watch a lot of his videos, and sometimes I still click on them if he's talking about a subject I'm interested in, which he sometimes does. So, history aside, listened today to Digi's light novel that he wrote in a day. I had listened to about half of it before when I was more into Digi, but I never made it through the whole thing. I never even got to the "this book" meme. Like I knew what it was because I could just guess. Well, something very strange just happened in this video game, but anyway. So I knew I guessed what this book meme was pretty easily, but today I finally listened to the whole thing, and there was something I was getting at here. Oh yeah, it's given me idea. It's given me an idea to either try and do the same thing, which is to say to write a book in about a day, or to try and do something a little more my style, which would be to record an album in just a day. Now that's highly possible. I've actually, fun fact, if you didn't know, surprising number of people's favourite album that I've made is that one I released. I literally don't even know what it's fucking called. It's an Akazi album. It's called, it was released on The Worst. I literally have to look it up. It's the one that's classical. My Life Is Over, that one. Many may not know, but My Life Is Over was actually recorded I made the whole album in about 3 days, 2 or 3 days. It's kind of hard to say because I made one of the tracks a couple of the tracks a day before I decided to make an album. So, and I just put them in. I don't remember which ones. Oh yeah, I made a Desert Level and Interlude the day before I made all the other tracks. So I guess, yeah, 2 days. Actually 3 days. It took 3 days to make the album, because I cleaned up some of the tracks on the third day, so I'm going to call it 3 days, which is good, but it's not 1 day, but it must be possible, right? Because I made most of those tracks in a day, but I don't want to make it a breakcore album because I've done enough of those. Well, that's not true. Well, that is true, but it's not true at the same time. It's very complicated. I have this idea to make a series of interconnected breakcore albums about maids, about anime maids. I want to make a series of interconnected breakcore albums, revolving, which each basically tell a very strange meta story about maids. The problem is that making an album is not easy. And also I've been spoiled by SoundCloud, and I want immediate feedback and immediate gratification from having released something and then, make something and release it as soon as you're finished, which is not how albums work. You gotta hold on to that shit. So, essentially the idea is to make a bunch of breakcore tracks, but the other thing is it can't just be random breakcore tracks because they have to build into this world. And each album has to be in a different style of breakcore. I'm going to vary from incredibly noise adjacent. I have various different characters, but I haven't finalized any of this, so none of this is like set in stone or solidified in my head. I have ideas, but none of them are like finished enough to turn into a full album, which is very annoying because it's kind of a cool idea. Apocalyptic breakcore about anime maids. How did none of those shots hit? Oh, 2 of them hit, but I didn't kill them. Oh, amazing. I feel like I'm a genius. Every day I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I'm a genius. But the problem is, it's just too hard. Oh god. Something, make a series of interconnected breakcore albums. Something, maybe I should try and make one of those in a day. It's just very easy to get distracted. Because I have so many YouTube channels invested in. I have so much anime. I've actually been watching anime again. That's something that's happened in my life. I stopped watching anime for ages, for like multiple months. I've decided to start watching anime again. It was an active decision. I watched Achikochi, which is a cool. It's actually, I think from what I've heard, a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's underrated and kind of cool. But this is I need to turn voice enable off. Fortunately, I have a mind to do just that, which makes me today's Captain of the Week. Good thing I'm Captain of the Week, right? There's a reference that most of you won't understand. That's not true. A lot of people probably see that video. What am I talking about? Well, I'm really getting distracted right now. I've drank a lot. Since I already talked about my aversion to bragging about how much drugs I consume, I can actually talk about this. Let's count how many beers in my bin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Well, that wasn't that interesting. There were 7 beverages in my rubbish bin. 7 of them. Many of which alcoholic in nature. In fact, all of which are alcoholic in nature. Actually, that's because there is actually also a Monster in there, and that's interesting because I normally don't get Monster because you have to go outside to get Monster, and I don't really like going outside. So how did I get a Monster? You ask. Well, I went outside, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, I went to the shop, I bought a Monster, and that's about it. That's about all she wrote. I wonder if they're doing some crazy fake out. No, they're not. No, they're not doing some crazy fake out. They're just playing normally. What do I do here? I'm gonna smoke. I'm gonna throw a smoke. Throw a smoke over to here. Kill the guy that I know is gonna be here. Stab that guy, and then I die. Oh no, I'm dead. Well, at least I got knife kills, so I got my money back. Fuck this. The entire reason I made this was because I listened to that Digibo thing and I was like, oh yeah, I have an audience. I should talk to them. But then I realized neither me nor Digibo are particularly interesting. And the only reason Digital made that video pretty decent is because he was doing something ridiculous, which was writing a light novel in a day. And all I'm doing is dying. And no one cares about dying. Let me tell you why no one cares about dying. Because we're all dying. Some faster than others, but no one cares about dying. And therefore, no one wants to listen to me constantly die over the course of 24 hours. Oh no, I said that last bit. Because, let me tell you why I said that last bit. Because I'm rambling. Because I feel an obligation to create content or something. But I don't. And that's the odd thing. Is that I feel no obligation to create content. I'm simply a confused young man. Because, alright, let me think about how to put this. Do I feel an obligation to create content? Yes and no. On the one hand, it's quite enjoyable, and it's also a medium in which I can communicate, which I'm always looking for. I always enjoy mediums in which I can communicate, and most importantly, it's fun to make. Obviously, I don't. If you've watched anything by me, if you've watched Manifesto, you know that I don't particularly care about being heard. I just enjoy shouting into the void. I just enjoy the void's company. It was a normal burp until I made those weird noises afterwards. So why am I doing this? Well, let me tell you why I'm doing this. Because of 3 reasons. Number 1 reason, I'm drunk. Number 2 reason, I watched that Digibro thing, and it made me want to talk. It made me want to pretend I'm well known enough to get away with doing something like that and make money off of it. See, that's the crazy thing that separates me and him, is that he does that and makes money, and I do this and make nothing. And that's why I am superior, because he has ulterior motives and he can't ever not. And all of these popular people, they have ulterior motives and they can't ever not. It's impossible for them not to, because they're making money. Because I'm not making any money, and I never have and I never will. It means that my entire being is in some way inherently different to theirs. Somehow there's a different tinge to it, because I know that there is no monetary motivation to be gained here. It's purely for myself. It's purely because I enjoy making it. Also, it's supposed to be. In reality, I enjoy making it, and I enjoy the feedback I get from making it. I'm an attention whore, and I will never deny it. I have been from a young age. I mean, I'm a musician, for fuck's sake. Why does anyone start practicing card magic if they're not an attention whore? The only reason to do magic tricks is because you want people to pay attention to you. And if that results in money, fine. But none of us actually want it. And this isn't just about magic, this is about everything. This is including Digibro here. The money's good if you can make it, but it's the attention that is really the main cause, even if it's just minor. And as much as you might try to avoid it, like I have by making obscure shit, it just makes it more satisfying when you get attention for it, because it means that you know that it's the more obscure you are, the more you know that it's because of you and not because of someone you're imitating or something you're doing. Which makes it ever more satisfying. So you chase it. And that's me since I was born. Someone can psychoanalyze that. I don't really understand. I feel like I had no potential as a child. I don't really get it. But there you go. So I guess I'm an attention whore. But I'm I'm the type of attention whore that is only after attention from people I think are cool. I don't care. None of this makes any sense. I'm just psychoanalyzing myself for no reason, and it's also bad because it's clearly not true. Like, a lot of it is very obviously not true if you know me. Oh god, this is stupid. I need to stop recording. I just can't be bothered to change my window over to the appropriate setting so that I can actually pause my recording. I don't know why I did that. I don't know what I'm doing. I really just, you know what, this might just, okay, at this point you can consider this video over. You can just assume that I'm not going to say anything intelligent after this point. It won't, this isn't like some sort of weird secret thing. This is just true. I'm not going to say anything intelligent after this point. Am I going to die here? I died. I died in my own Molotov. This is epic. Okay, well that rounded it, so I guess it's time to end this video and vacate from my bed. This is going to be the first episode of No Thank You. It's under No Thank You's bed. It's bad.